not expect to have to cook today. What's going on, everybody? Tim here from the Lancaster Smokehouse, and today we are making one of my favorite dishes, shrimp and grits. Classic Louisiana dish, low country comfort food they call it. So we've got some really delicious grits, and we're gonna make a shrimp sauce. We're gonna have some perfectly cooked shrimp, and it's gonna be really tasty, so stay tuned. Don't know, so grits are just ground dried corn, similar to cornmeal, similar to polenta. Really the biggest difference is just the variety of corn that it might be used, as well as the coarseness. We like them a little bit coarse. Cornmeal and polenta tend to be a lot finer grind and really smooth and kind of even. First thing that we need to do is we need to get our grits working. All I have here is 1 cup of grits and 4 cups of water. Set that overnight. Same idea that you would do with beans, you're just rehydrating it, going in the pot. A lot of people will boil their water and then add their grits. I like to start it on a low heat, and then it brings everything up to temperature together, helps it cook a little more evenly. Also, this way we don't have to strain it, and we can keep using that liquid that it's soaked in, and that liquid just has that corn and grits flavor. I say why not use it? You don't want to see any heavy boiling, just a really, really low heat, probably the lowest heat that your stovetop can go to. And it's gonna take at least an hour. Stir it, scrape down all the sides. Just be patient, let it do its thing. If you go to stir it and you notice that it's getting really, really tight and it's really thick, you just add a little bit more water. You can always just add a little bit more water or a little bit stock or a little bit of milk just before serving it to get it to that kind of perfectly desired consistency. We're done with this. The sauce is basically a really flavorful stock that we reduce, add some butter and cream to. It's nice, it's very tasty. Remind me to never do accents again. I can't help it. The sauce that we're making, which is really what sets this shrimp and grits apart, is not actually a shrimp and grits sauce. It's actually sauce for what they would call barbecue shrimp. It's called barbecue shrimp, but there's just no actually barbecuing involved. Really, it's just sauteed. We're just gonna kind of dump everything into our pot. Liter of chicken stock. We use pork stock a lot here at the restaurant because we have a lot of smoked pork bones. That'll be funny. 1 liter of Worcestershire sauce. Yes, 1 liter. You are going to spend a lot of money on Worcestershire sauce for this recipe. 1 cup of dry white wine. I got about 2 cups here of dried shrimp. If you really wanted to cheat, you could just use some seafood bouillon cubes. It adds a lot more salt. So if you do that, be careful with your seasoning later. I'm just gonna get the heat working on low. So while it's coming up, I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. I'm just gonna peel the outside of the lemon, throw that right in there. Don't wanna waste the lemon either. Then we've got a shallot. We're gonna be straining this later, and it's gonna be a really smooth sauce. You don't have to worry about mincing the shallot too fine or anything. You don't even have to take the peels off the shallot. So I got some thyme. I probably had like 6 or 7 sprigs in there. Sprigs, is sprigs the word? Sprigs of thyme. I've got some rosemary. We're gonna take 2. And then I've got a bunch of parsley here. Chop off kind of the bottom part, so it's mostly stems. Don't throw them out. Cut them really, really finely, and they're fine to put on food, to use as a garnish, to put in a sauce. So I've got some black peppercorns that we're gonna add in next. I'm gonna do probably about, I'd say that's about a teaspoon or so. I'm gonna take 2 bay leaves, toss them in, 2, 4, 5 cloves of garlic. Just kind of smash them. All that we need to do now is let it cook, probably like a medium heat, kind of a low boil, and you just wanna cook it for probably about an hour until it reduces. Then we're gonna strain it, put it back on the burner, and reduce it a little bit more, and then we'll finish it up. So I've got some nice fresh shrimp right here. If you can find them with the whole head on, that would be great. Actually, it looks really good for garnishing. But what do you do with these? Get a paring knife handy, or a utility knife, or whatever you got. Find where the little squiggly legs are, and then you just kind of use your thumbs, and you're gonna peel around, and you're gonna peel off the shell. I like to take the tail off, and there you go. You got your nice, beautiful shrimp. The shrimp shells, don't throw those away. Throw them into your sauce stock. And then next, what you gotta do with these guys is you gotta get out the poop vein. Take your paring knife or utility knife and kind of cut a slit down the back all the way through, just like that, to expose. You got it, poop. All right, so I've got my shrimp done here. I have 9 of them. 4 to 5 is probably good for a serving. We're gonna be cooking these really shortly, so I'm not even gonna bother putting them in the fridge. Kind of want your protein always to be room temperature before you cook it. Don't salt them yet. That could just dry them out a little bit. And next we are going to do the next step of the sauce, and we're getting nice and close to plating. So we've got our stock, which has been reducing, which is going to be the base to our sauce. It's reduced probably by half. It's been going for probably a little bit over an hour. I turned it down to a little bit of a simmer now, but it was at a pretty rolling boil, which is completely fine. We're going to strain it with my little fancy chinois. Strain it. You want a pretty fine strain because you don't want to get like any chunks of the peppercorns or anything like that, but it doesn't have to be super, super tight. So just get everything in there. This, as you can see, still very liquidy. We're going to be reducing it a lot more yet. I'm just going to get this pot out of here. Swap it out with your pan. Nice and smooth like that. I like to switch it to a pan because a pan just has more surface area to reduce. And we're gonna pour that gently into our pan. Same idea here. You can pretty much get this boiling as long as it doesn't boil over. We're gonna get it to kind of a syrupy phase, add our cream, then we're gonna reduce it again, get it back to kind of that syrupy phase, add our butter, and it's gonna be nice. Remind me to never do accents again. I'm just gonna show you what our finished grits look like. So we had them cooking for probably about an hour and a half, really low heat, stirring super frequently. They've got a nice porridge texture and consistency. Make sure you fish out your bay leaves. You could eat these right away. A lot of people will eat them just as is, but we're just gonna add a little bit more flavor to them. We're gonna add some manchego cheese. So this is not very traditional, but I think it works really well. This is a 12-month manchego. You can grate as much as you want, put a ton in, don't put much in at all. Add the cheese, and then I'm gonna season it with salt and pepper because I might need to back off on the salt a little bit. And when you add that cheese, that's gonna make it tighten and thicken a little bit. So you can add just little splashes of boiling water as you need to. But this is looking pretty nice. So let's taste our grits and see if they are pretty much ready for us to eat. Needs a little salt, a little bit of pepper. I'm gonna add a little bit more cheese. I don't want it to be the star of the show, but I do want to be able to taste that cheese a little bit. Taste as you're going along. We ended up adding a good amount of cheese. Mix that up again, and then we'll give it one final taste. Hopefully it's a final taste. Oh yeah, this is very tasty. Set those aside on like a really, really, really low heat, or just put a lid on it with no heat. Yeah, grits are done. Let's just check in on our sauce. It's really boiling. You can kind of see that top line in the pan there. All the sediment has started to dry to the sides, so you can see how much it's reduced from that. It's still very, very liquidy, so it's not ready there yet. So this is no doubt one of the most boring parts of making this recipe, but it's also one of the most important. You really need to be patient, let it reduce, let it get thick. You gotta be patient with it, just watch it. It's actually getting really close. All the bubbles are a lot smaller and they're really rapid, and you can see that it's kind of stopped doing it around the edges, and that's because there's just less and less moisture. So hold on, we're almost there. It's really, really important at this phase that you are ready with your cream, because your cream is gonna instantly come in and cool it down, and that's kind of your safety. If we take this too far, it can burn and get bitter really, really quickly. You can taste it here. It tastes gross right now. Flip your spoon around and throw your finger through. The sauce is just kind of sticking on it. So this is that part that's really important. Get your cream into your sauce. This is 2 cups of whole fat heavy cream. Now we have to do the same thing over again. Oh yeah, now it's getting good. As our sauce is cooking away, we're gonna quickly cube up our chilled butter. So I have 1 whole pound of butter. It's a lot of butter. Just doing this so that we can kind of slowly add it in pieces into the sauce that are gonna melt nice and consistently. Butter's cubed up. Our sauce is really bubbling away like crazy. It's really, really reducing. All right, so our sauce is at like a really beautiful consistency now. It's almost that of like caramel. It's nice and thick. It still drips. Turn the heat off, and now we add our butter. If you were to add the butter with the heat on, you run the risk of your sauce splitting. So slowly adding in our butter as we whisk. It's gonna drop the temperature down a little bit, but that's great. It's gonna make it extra thick. It's not low cal. Is it low carb? No, corn. Carbs? Lots of carbs in corn? Yeah, lots of carbs. The more it looks like chocolate, the better job you've done. It looks fantastic. Let's taste it, and now we're just adjusting for seasonings. Splash of apple cider vinegar, just to kind of wake it up a little bit. Mix that up, and then our sauce is completely done. And we're ready to cook our shrimp and plate. Okay, so all we have left to do is cook our shrimp. We're just gonna season them really quickly. A little bit of kosher salt, finely ground black pepper, not too much. Flip them over, do the other side. And these are gonna cook really, really quickly. It's probably gonna take a total of 90 seconds to cook these bad boys. And I've just got some neutral oil here. This is like canola oil. Got a pretty high heat here. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Let that cook. I'm gonna leave it for probably 30 seconds or so there. It's easy to tell when shrimp are cooked, they're just fully pink. That's how you know that we're getting pretty close to flipping the shrimp. I started here and went clockwise, so I'm gonna start in that same direction. Right now, I have a secret. This is how we're gonna cook the rest of the shrimp. Just turn it off. The residual heat in that pan is gonna be more than enough to cook the shrimp through. We know that it's not gonna overcook, it's just slowly gonna cook away. We've got our finished grits here, and those are just gonna go right in the center of our plate. So we're gonna take my shrimp out, starting with that first one that I put in, right on top of our grits. And now we've got our finished sauce, which is really the star of the show, probably about 3 to 4 ounces. A little bit more of that manchego cheese. Beautiful. To finish our garnish, we've got some nice little radish sprouts that I picked from my garden this morning. Great little garnish because they're kind of peppery. And there we go. We got our finished shrimp and grits. Get on over here, let's try it. Shrimpy.